Young Gun, a podcast about Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers. I am Demetri, a Bama grad. She is Lauren Brownlow, the biggest Panthers fan I know. And about 3 months ago, we decided to follow the team this year with a focus on its new franchise quarterback. And Lauren, it is working out about as poorly for you and I as it is for the Panthers themselves.
I'd actually argue that for us, it's been far better than it's worked out.
I mean, at least we're making content. We're getting a little money out of it.
It's not as if when we go to put the podcast out week after week, we, stumble over ourselves and instead throw our computer into a fire, which is basically what the Carolina Panthers do week in and week out.
I do want to get to that very aspect of watching the Panthers because it like yesterday, like clockwork, they get into the red zone and immediately are sacked out of the red zone. But we'll get into all of that in just a second. First, though, I got to tell you about our friends at Graffiti. They make the show possible. You can find them in downtown Cary, 158 East Cedar Street. You know about the Sunday bourbon pour specials, right? Blanton's at $10, Eagle Rare at $9. Same with Angel's Envy. Then you got McKenna 10-year, Heaven Hill 7-year, and Buffalo Trace, all for $8 a pour. But those aren't the only specials on Sunday. There are also beer specials. There are also weekly prizes. And to top it all off, 19 TVs. You do not have to miss any Sunday football action. And if you are a Panthers fan, you want to be surrounded by an environment where you do not have to pay attention to the Carolina Panthers. So do it next weekend. Graffiti, 158 East Cedar Street in downtown Cary. Also a great place to do your sort of friend holiday get together with all of those great drink specials, as well as the cool art and axe throwing going around at Graffiti. Lauren, this coming Sunday the 17th, I am taking my son to the game. And I am now concerned that CPS might need to be called if I go through with this.
No, it was actually really funny. Like I've been having this conversation with my son because his father is a Buccaneers fan. I am a Panthers fan. I have not forced fandom upon him because why would I do this to him? I wouldn't do this to anyone on purpose.
Yeah.
That I love. I don't know how into the Panthers your son is, though. That's the thing. Like, if he's not that into them, then it's fine. You can just go and laugh and go, wow, how is a football team this bad? You didn't know a football team could be this bad, did you? And yet there it is.
So my father is meeting us for the game, and this will sort of be our family holiday thing. And my dad said something to me that my son said to me as well, like weeks ago, which was, Tua and Jalen Hurts are on winning teams, right? Why couldn't you pick them to be your favorite? I was like, yeah, I know. No. But also, like, I don't get to hang out with Lauren doing a show about Tua or Jalen. And also, there's nobody in Raleigh, North Carolina for a show about Tua or Jalen right now.
I mean, come on, people. I mean, I'm not going to make the exact analogy, okay? Because obviously this isn't the analogy, but it's not like you can look at your own kids and then look at someone else's and go, you know what? I'd rather root for those kids. That's you don't just get to pick and choose who you love sometimes.
That's right.
Sometimes even when it hurts you, as I'm learning.
All right, let's dive into it. Was Bryce too short this week?
I mean, he was a lot of things. I don't know that short was
that's
what comes to mind first.
I wrote down watching the game, forget too short. The kid is broken right now.
I actually, you know what? It's interesting because as the game went on, I did, of the few things Jonathan Vilma said that I agreed with and didn't send me into a blind rage. One of them was that in the first half, you could tell he was visibly uncomfortable and you could absolutely tell that. However, at least in the third quarter, I was impressed. And Vilma said this too. I was impressed with how he came out. He clearly had a little bit of, sorry, but a you attitude to the way he was playing. And I loved that. That is what I liked. That's, I think, the ingredient I'd been missing from him a little bit was you don't see that very often in his game. He's so just,
Yeah.
go with the flow. You don't see a lot of emotion, positive or but like the way he leapt over on that was it third down run,
third down,
trying to pick up the third down, and he just like no regard for his own body, just literally was like, I am getting this first down if it kills me, and I do not care. And so that I did, and I was like, I don't know why he still feels this way this late in this football game. Like there must be something wrong. But then, as it went on, like you could obviously see him fade back in. And I mean, I don't blame him. Like, what is it exactly? Like, look, is he playing well? I don't think he played all that well in this game. You know that I will sometimes point out, like, did he play well in spite of it all? We can parse through the numbers and go, how many drops were there? How much this? How much that? But I don't know that I felt that I didn't feel like I felt that he played that well.
No, I'm with you. 36% passing. I got a tweet during the game from at Gville Tar Heel that said, was Bryce Young this bad at deep balls in Alabama? It's alarmingly bad. This was the first game I felt that way. Like it really was rough. And
he's had some misses before, but I think you could go back to sample size, go back to how open are guys, all of that. But there were some bad misses.
Early on in the game, some of those misses, I mean, like when he hit Sullivan in the numbers and Sullivan dropped the ball, when the ball goes through, all DJ Chark has to do is close his arms. That ball goes through his hands on a deep ball.
Is that the sideline ball that Vilma said was Bryce's fault?
Yes.
I didn't get into a full back and forth, but I have to, like, yes, did he have to come back to it a little bit? Like, yes, okay, fine. But at the same time, like, that's a lot of how that works in the NFL. Like sometimes you have to make adjustments. Just
I think the biggest part of that particular one was Chark had his hands on it.
Right. It was literally in his chest and in his hands. Like, I don't know what else. I mean, yes, it was the DB right there to make a play because he had to come back to it. Okay, fine. But at the same time, like he literally has it. Just give him a big hug.
Yeah. So in answer to that question, was he this bad on deep balls at Alabama? No. But also, I think he was more in sync with his receivers' timing. That is probably the easy answer. And I think the other part of the answer is he trusted his receiver. Like he had a little bit better understanding of where his receivers were going to be. And let's be honest, the year he won the Heisman, he's throwing to Jamison Williams and John Mechie. Nobody is covering those guys. Like those guys are wide open every single time. So I don't know if it's fair to judge 1-to-1. And that doesn't mean Bryce has never been good at the deep ball, but certainly this is a whole new level and it comes with a whole new set of problems for the guy. Like I will tell you, I am worried about him long-term. I legitimately am. But I don't know. I still stick to like, I don't know that you can look at what is going on right now and say, well, Bryce is the biggest problem with this offense.
It's interesting. I don't remember who posted, but I saw a hypothetical thrown out yesterday on Twitter of like, if you could change one thing about the Panthers offense, what would it be? And the more I thought about it, the more I was just like, but I mean, like that's the problem. Like you look at Bryce has developed some bad habits. He's not hitting deep balls. The receivers aren't scaring anybody. So defenders are sitting on routes. The play calling is uninspired. The blocking is bad. Like I could go on, and like that's, so for me, it's like, we see all of that in this like symphony of suck on the offense
right,
week after week. And so it's hard for me to point, like, if they had a better O-line, would that help? Yeah. I guess if I had to pick one thing, I'd probably pick that because like, if you can't, if there isn't the time more often than not for plays to develop, there's nothing you can really do down the field. Like you're one dimensional at that point and you're easy to stop. But at the same time, like, there's still a lot of bad to fix elsewhere, including the play calling, which inexplicably took a very abrupt turn this week in ways that often made no sense.
Yeah, we'll get into that in just a moment. First, though, I do want to tell you about Origin Sports TV. You can watch us there each and every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. It is a fast TV channel, which means it is already built into however it is you are getting TV. So if it's Xumo, Roku, Amazon Freevee, or Samsung TV Plus, go to those built-in channels and look for Origin Sports TV. We are there each and every Tuesday night talking about Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers with you guys. All right, Lauren, so I think the play calling goes into this because as soon as this team gets into the red zone, I can't speak for the team. I can only speak for people like you and me. Like, we know that's not ending in a touchdown. we know through some series of strange events, it's going to end up with Eddie Pinheiro kicking a 40-yard field goal.
To be fair, as a Panthers fan, and I think I can speak for a lot of us, we're somewhat used to this.
Sure.
You know, like there was a meme made, I think it was like 6 years ago that I still have saved in my phone of like, you know, the guy checking out the girl's butt as he's like with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Stock image. It's like the girlfriend is touchdowns and the girlfriend is the girl he's checking out is field goals.
Yeah.
And the Panther, it's the Panthers in the middle.
Yeah.
So this has been a thing for them for a while, but it's almost, well, not almost, it has become like comical. Almost like you just go in there, or even it's not even just the red zone. It's like you got a 3rd and 1. Let's turn that into 3rd and longer. Like you got 2nd and 1. This is going to end in a 3rd and 17.
Yeah.
Just somehow.
And so here's where I want to rope in your offense comment from the last segment. That first time they got into the red zone, ran up the middle with Chuba, got stopped. Ran up the middle with ran outside with Chuba, got stopped. 3rd down, I think they were on the 2, if I remember correctly, or maybe the 3. They're inside the 5, either way.
Yeah.
They drop back to pass, which on 3rd and goal, I don't hate, but with this playbook, like there's nothing creative enough in that short of field space. Just roll Bryce out. And if he has a path, let him run. And if he doesn't, dump it off.
And it was weird because like early in the game, especially like very early, they were doing like some interesting things with like motion and like trying to play tricks on the defense, which is honestly what this offense has to do.
Absolutely.
You're not like straight up gonna beat anyone one-on-one.
Yeah.
Like you're not. So, and they were doing some interesting things with that, but then they would get to the red zone and it was just like, what? And that was actually the red zone possession that probably made the most sense, or like the, you know what I mean? Like there were some sequences, especially on short yardage, where you're just like at least they ran it there. Yeah. That had been working the whole game. Well, a lot of times they'd get a 3rd and 1, a 4th and 1, whatever, and they would like do something inexplicable, like have a run start 5 or 6 yards into the backfield instead of going under center like they'd done earlier. I just am sitting there like, why?
Yeah. Did you watch any of the Army Navy game at all?
No.
Towards the end of the game, Navy was on offense, and they just let an Army edge rusher come through completely untouched. And my son made the comment, he's 12, by the way, made the comment that this looks like a Panthers game when that happened. And honestly...
you should have show him the punt block. Excuse me, the fumble, whatever. Don't care.
The punt aside... The second red zone possession on back-to-back plays, it was untouched right to Bryce. I mean, it's unfathomable. Like it's so weird, right? This team has problems getting the ball downfield, and yet it feels like if they are ever going to score a touchdown again, it's going to have to be a 50-yard run or bomb or something like that, because they're certainly not doing it from inside the red zone. What's that?
I thought you were going to say an accident.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like it might have to be like a pick six or a fumble backwards or something like that.
Yeah. No, but like when it was Sanders at a long run, right?
Yep.
I screamed.
Yeah.
Because that's like seeing Bigfoot this year for the Panthers. I'm like,
it really is. It really is. He got knocked out like inside the 2. I think that's what set up that first red zone possession, and immediately they piss it away.
That was later, actually, I believe. It was in the third
was it?
quarter.
Okay.
So, but yeah, because I was like, oh my God. Oh, because it was still a 1-score game, but
that's right.
Games, a 1-score game feels like a 5-score game. So you're sitting there like, wait. But when he didn't score, I was like, well, that's it. And I was right. Like, that's the thing. People used to call me like a fatalist because they're like, oh, why are you so pessimistic?
It's like, I mean, I tweeted this as a joke during the game, but it really is true. Among the many mistakes I've made in 2023, signing up to be a Panthers fan is right up there, Lauren. I mean, like, I love you, but I don't know how you do this to yourself.
Okay, so to be fair, they've been painful to watch for a variety of reasons. This is up there. This is the worst that they've ever been. Yeah. Like, full stop. Seifert, throw it out. This is... Because not only are they like just bad, they're like clown shoes bad. They're like embarrassing bad.
Yeah.
It's like, they're like your friend. We all have like a friend, maybe it's me, Probably that like something good happens to them, like someone good comes into their life, and they're like, "We don't deserve this," and they
Right.
sabotage it immediately.
Right.
That's what it's like watching. It's literally almost become comical, where you're like, "Are you serious right now? Like
Yeah.
that good thing just happened. Maybe you should build on that." And instead, they're like, "Ha ha ha! No, we'll just
No.
set it ablaze instead."
Don't forget the OG Media brand survey is out there right now. And first of all, thank you. We are over 500 responses in just a week's time. We're going to close it out after this week, but I want to paint as complete a picture of our audience as I can. So if you have not done so already, ogtrianglemedia.com. Less than 25 questions. It's really going to help us shape what it is we are going to be doing in 2024. Lauren and I have a cool new podcast idea that's going to we're going to tell you about in a little bit later on, not today, but it's beyond podcasting content, right? We've got all this kind of stuff we want to do, but we need to know what matters to you. So if you've not taken the survey yet, do it right now. ogtrianglemedia.com. All right, Lauren, I don't even know how to start. Like, I'm so, like, just bringing up ChrisTrabor's name leaves me flummoxed because, on the one hand, I love that he clearly does not give a about this job.
It's
And
beautiful.
on the other hand, I'm very concerned he's going to end up being the permanent head coach.
Oh, wait, why?
Because I don't know who else wants this job right now.
Okay, well, some of that, listen. Okay, you want to do part 2 first? Because we can do that.
Yeah.
Part 2, I know that David Tepper is probably a nightmare to work with, and you probably look at that and go, "Oh, I don't want that." I know that it's not a good situation right now. Like, this is
Right.
not a good football team. I know that you probably look at this if you're a coach and go, "They don't have any draft picks. How are we going to fix this?" But it's still, I know that this is a cliche, but I do think it still applies on some level. I do not think, no, that it would ever be bad enough that they would think that that was a better option than anyone they could actually get to take the job. No, I do not think that that will be the case.
So I agree with you. Like, I think, and this is the one thing about Dave Tepper that I think in this situation makes me a little bit optimistic is he does want to hit a home run with the coaching hire. He does not necessarily want a yes man. Now, he does want whoever he hits the home run with to grow into a yes man. I will give you that 100%. But you got to remember, like, what gives me pause is that Tabor is a guy that that Tepper insisted Reich keep from the previous staff. And it just
what?
Yes.
Wait. Really?
Really?
Okay.
And that's what gives me concern.
Like, I'm sorry. The special teams actually this year have been better than they've been in a while, but better is not garbage.
Right.
Like, that's where we were coming from.
Right.
And I'm not talking about Pinheiro and the punting itself. I'm talking about coverage units. I'm talking about return units. That matters a lot. And like, look at the field position. How many plays in a row to start the game did the Saints run in Panthers territory?
Yeah.
Like, it was because of a lot of things, but part of it was special teams, right? So like, okay.
I mean, this is what concerns me is if they strike out on Ben Johnson, if they strike out on let's say Brian Johnson is the next name we've heard, if they strike out on Frank Smith from Miami, like, who's to say at some point that Dave Tepper doesn't just say, you know what, Chris is a good guy. Chris stepped in a rough situation. Let's make him the coach. And
do you know what a racist that would make him look like after last year?
Well, I mean, if he goes to someone like Brian Johnson and Brian Johnson is smart enough to go, no.
I'm just pointing that out. Like,
no, I hear you.
Actually won games.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I also think that coming off of last year, this franchise did not look as hopeless as it does right now. Like, I'm not telling you that I think Tepper deserves a pass for the way Wilkes was treated or anything like that. I think this is a totally different situation in terms of how attractive the job is.
I hear you. I think that he'll find a way to get somebody in there, even if it's some like has been retread that'll just make me start crying.
Right.
Right. I think someone will take the job. I'm not concerned about that, and I think that he knows better than to trot out Tabor as a head coach at this point for like a variety of reasons, right? Like, I mean, it'd be one thing if he like won a couple games, but and you know, sounded like he knew what was going on, but neither of those things are happening. So like
So here's my question for you. Does he sound like what of his two quotes, one during the game and one after the game yesterday, that sounded like
okay, I love the one during the game, to be fair.
during the game he was asked about throwing for a 4th and short as opposed to running, and his quote was, well, there are two ways we could have gone with that, and that's the way we went.
I honestly, that might be like the best answer I've ever heard to that question. Like coaches will get into it, start defending it and whatever. And he's like, you know what? We had 2 play calls we could have picked for, I mean, not literally, but you know what I mean? We had 2 types of plays we could have run. We went one way and it didn't work out. And it's like, how do you even argue with that? Like, what is the rebuttal? There really isn't one. I'm just like, you know what? Philosophically speaking, that kind of rules, but also that's sad.
It's sort of like, I don't know if you ever watched that 70s show, but it's a very Red Foreman sort of vibe of coaching this team. The other one, after the game, he was asked if he was thinking about pulling BryceYoung. Tabor said he's not concerned about BryceYoung's safety since they ran for more than 200 yards. Quote, somebody's blocking. Fantastic.
This was my face for like 10 minutes after seeing that quote.
I mean, this is... It is so insanely silly how unbothered this man is. Like, you're never like, I think we agree that unless something extraordinary does not happen. That almost
felt like a reply I would get from someone on Twitter if I say like, that pass wasn't BryceYoung's fault.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I get a guy that says, well, clearly, I mean, actually, no one's even said anything that dumb to me. That like, clearly someone's blocking. It's like, are you for real right now? Like, do you know that a lot of us know that like run and pass blocking are different, right? Like,
it's like your spouse or partner trying to start a fight with you. Why am I not worried about my quarterback? Well, the blocking's working, but no, it's obviously it's not.
Right, like it's either a completely smart ass answer in which in that way, like respect, but it seemed like he was trying to be so earnest that you're like, are you okay?
He's got to be like in his 50s, right? Or like mid 50s. Like he probably knows that there is no head coaching shot coming
so
at this point.
Care.
Yeah, so he doesn't care what you think of him one way or the other. No,
in a way, like I respect it. Come out there and just give. Like actually, that the 4th down answer. When I think about it, it had very like both teams played hard, Rasheed Wallace energy to it. Yeah. It's like I'm answering your question.
That's the other part too, right? Like between Reich and Tepper, especially if Tabor is a Tepper guy, you can understand why he's over this by now too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like he sees, and then like I wouldn't say I feel for him completely because I don't feel like special teams have been good enough for a while now, in my opinion. But at the same time, I did feel for him a little bit when that punt got fumble recover. It's so weird, the fumble disputes we were having during that game. I was like, who gives a what we actually call it? Like, it's a turnover. Like,
I was about to say both turnovers.
I'm like, are the Saints getting some sort of like bonus for that? Like, why are we so obsessed with turning these into fumbles? Like, I don't care, but it was also very weird.
Yeah. The midweek talk through drops every Thursday. It's a second episode of this show every week where it's me and someone offering a more national perspective on the team. And it's been pretty bleak lately, but it's also been fun because it's fun to dive into what other people from outside of North Carolina are seeing when they look in on the Panthers. It is what's up? Okay.
Sorry, go ahead. You finish.
Every Thursday, wherever you're getting this podcast platforms, YouTube, that is where you will find the midweek talk through.
No, I would have loved to have seen more of what Jonathan Vilma actually thought about the Carolina Panthers. Instead, I got a lot of what he thinks about the New Orleans Saints. And we literally, I think I timed it at one point. It was 3 minutes and counting of Taysom Hill content during the game.
So I was not counting at that point because, Lauren, the 3 minutes of Taysom Hill content came literally on the back of a 5-minute NASCAR commercial for Alvin Kamara's NASCAR t-shirt brand or whatever it is. Yeah. And that sort of ties into my next question. David Newton from ESPN asked this. I read his column and it was not accusatory. It was just sort of saying, boy, coming out of this one feels worse than any game we've come out of so far. And he asked, is this rock bottom? And as I'm watching,
don't ask that because I've asked it a few times, and guess what? It wasn't.
I know. Watching the game yesterday with as disengaged, and maybe part of it was having a former Saint in the booth. Like, I don't think you could dismiss that because you default to your comfort level, right?
P.S. When you said like Greg Olsen wasn't as nice, that's what being nicer looks like, and that's why I was fine with it because it was embarrassing.
Yeah. What's this rock bottom? I mean, it seems like the guys even calling the games have given up on this team putting anything together.
I mean, I sure hope. For my personal rock bottom as a fan was when, Jimmy Graham, who I actively despised as a member of the Saints for years, did not like him. Then all of a sudden, his corpse is back. And scoring touchdowns on it. It was like,
he must be back, right? Like surely he has not been a Saint this whole time. It's just been hiding on the roster.
I would believe anything at this point when it comes to that team, and especially when they play our team. Like, the Saints are the team I don't like the most by far in the NFC South. Like, growing up, it was more the Bucs, but even that felt more like fun and good natured, and like they were both good, which is a rarity in this division. But they were both the top dogs fighting it out, like, and that was more fun. But I didn't like them. But like, obviously, a lot of people moved on. You new people coming to town, and then you kind of are like, oh, they're just like us. So the Saints are still like just like us, but I have enough residual hate left over from the Sean Payton era that like I cannot stand them. And so for that game to essentially not only be like humiliating on several levels as a fan, and then to have to hear like a Saints infomercial the entire time, I was like, this is against the Geneva Convention. I am being tortured. I would like to report that. Well, I don't know that reporting something like that would do much good now. I don't know. But regardless, like, I was like, this is a war crime. What's happening to me?
I think I can explain your hate for the Saints from the Saints' point of view, because as a Gulf Coast native, right, I've thought about this a lot since 2005, because I was here. I was just starting my first radio gig here when Hurricane Katrina was hitting the Gulf Coast, right? And we were all later in 2006, we were all excited for them to see them back in the Superdome, right? They were America's team that night, and we were all happy for them when they won the Super Bowl. And I think the majority of Saints fans...
No, this girl wasn't. Nope.
No. Okay, so excluding the people that actively hate the Saints, right? And by the way, I grew up on the Gulf Coast, was never a Saints fan.
I was happy for the city.
Right. I believe that Saints fans deep down in their heart believe we're all still rooting for them. They cannot, and I know that my dad's girlfriend is a hardcore Saints fan, cannot fathom that there are people that do not like the team, or excuse me, that do not root for the team, let alone actively do not like them. Because I actively do not. I actively have never liked the Saints.
Dude, the best thing that happened to me during that game was when they started showing highlights of that game of Adam Thielen against the Saints.
Yeah.
And then I know they showed at least some highlights from the game where they beat them in New Orleans. And I was like, oh yes, let me get more of this package.